So we've seen how Google Sheets can copy formulas and using autofill figure out how you want to change the formula. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to look at, well, sometimes you don't want to change the formula as you copied it down. And let's look at an example of that. So let's say we have, I'm going to put the number here, 2. And we're going to have, let's say, we'll start with the number 1 here. And we're going to say equals A1, so the previous cell, times, now instead of entering a number, we're going to refer to cell C1, except we're going to do it a little differently this time. We're going to enter a $C, $1. The reason that we're doing that is because, and we'll see when we copy it down, we'll explain what the $sign did. So now it took, the formula says take what is in cell A1, which was 1, multiply it by whatever is in cell C1, which was 2. So now we multiplied 1 by 2 and got 2. Now we're going to copy that formula down. And you can see that now what Google did was it took, in the next column, it copied the formula down and it changed A1 to A2. But notice that it did not change C1. The reason that it did not is because we put the $signs in front of the C and in front of the 1. So it's not going to change either the column or the row number when I copy the formula down. And here's the reason that we want to do that. Right now, I could change this number and it would change everything because since this cell in A2 refers to A1, when I change A1, that means A2 changes, that means A3 changes, etc. But by having a reference to cell C1, what's called an absolute reference that doesn't change even as I copy the formula, now I could change this number to, let's say, a 3. And now instead of multiplying each cell by 2 to get the next cell value, it multiplies by 3. And so now I have a lot more flexibility because I could change this value and everything changes, or I could change this value to anything that I wanted to. So now I could generate any kind of called a geometric sequence that I want because I can set the initial value here and I can set the value that we're multiplying by each time here. And so I can change every value in this column easily just by changing the values in A1 and in C1. So again, the way we do that is our formula includes a relative reference here, the A2, because without the $signs, that's going to keep getting updated as I copy the formula down. But the part of the formula that has a cell reference with the $signs, that's not going to get updated when I copy the formula down. Okay, now let's look at something else here. Suppose that we decided, you know what, I don't like having so many decimal places represented here, even though it's more precise. So I'm going to say I'm going to limit it to 2 decimal places for each of these. So I'm going to select column A, and then I'm going to click on Format. And I want to format the numbers. So when I select number here, notice I get all these possibilities. I get automatic, plain text, number, percent, scientific, etc. So here's what I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose number. And notice that when I did that, it automatically changed it so that it's only showing me 2 decimal places. So what that means is that I can have a lot of control over how things look, and that will be very useful. So for example, let's say that these numbers represented not just numbers, but let's say they represented dollars. Well, I could choose to represent it as a currency, and now it automatically puts the $sign in. I could, for example, suppose I had a series of numbers like this, 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and I wanted to represent these not as decimals but as percentages. So I select these, Format, again go to Number, go to Percent, and now they were automatically converted from a decimal of 0.1 to a percent of 10%. Google Spreadsheets, just like Excel, still treats this number as 0.1. So if I multiply it by it, it's still going to treat it as 0.1, but it's going to show it as 10%. So there's all kinds of formatting options, and if you enter text, let's enter the alpha here, And now when I click on that and go to Format, I have all kinds of possibilities here. I can bold, italicize, I can align it left and right. I can text wrap it, which means that either it'll flow over into the next cell or it'll wrap around and be a multi-line entry. If I have, let's say, I type in, it's alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Right now, it doesn't wrap. But if I change the formatting here, format, go to text wrapping to wrap, now it's going to give me 2 lines to make sure it fits. And if I want to change the size of a column, I can just position the cursor over the right end of the column and I can drag it and it will enlarge the column.